Tell us that quote you said about M&Ms and Skittles, something like that. You got to quote it.
I will fight for people's individuality, including all of the stuff that comes with it, the trouble, the experiences. I don't want to live in a world of brown M&Ms. I want to live in a world of Skittles. Like
the collaborative entrepreneur.
Hey, welcome everybody back to the Collaborative Entrepreneur, the show where we are building partnerships that can grow our business. We do want to scale. We do want to grow, and it's in having other people involved in your business, at least walking through. Maybe they see things that you're not seeing. One thing that I think is missing from a business, we're going to be talking about a little bit more today, the spirituality side of business. And so I want you to make sure that you got yourself a cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, some water. Get something to write something down, because the guest that I have on here today, I know is going to drop some brilliance, drop some gold nuggets that you're going to enjoy. I know I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm really looking forward to our guest today. It is said that your life is only as good as the mindset you choose to approach life with. So think about that mind. Think about the classic books like The Power of Positive Thinking and approaching your life with the right kind of mindset. Sometimes the wrong mindset is limiting what we can get done in our life, and we can have a limited beliefs around money, around spirituality, around how it's places in business and so forth. And we're going to touch on that a little bit today. So in a world where fad diets and quick fixes often overshadow the importance of long-term health and mental well-being, the guest that we have on today stands as a beacon for wisdom and guidance. And with the years of experience since like 2012 in the coaching space, I know that she's going to help us with many things. She's got experience with life coaching, with health, nutrition, just mindset, hypnotherapy, just so many things. She's actually an entrepreneur, and she's dedicated to helping individuals and businesses as an integrative mind-body coach and business mentor. I got to meet her in our connection with Grant Cardone, and she's an elite coach, been serving with Grant for a while now. Also, she's also on episode 242 in her own podcast, More Than Mindset. That is inspirational to me, and I know because 241 episodes she's already banked. Now I'm going to put out her 242nd here very soon. I know that involves a lot of work and a lot of dedication, a lot of showing up, a lot of consistency. When you don't feel like doing it, you just get on the podcast anyway. I'm impressed already about that. But she's also a life coach through the Life Coach School. She's a health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, a certified hypnotherapist. I was just brilliant, right? And so I really can't wait to get her out here to show her brilliance. And so welcome everybody, Miss Kim. Thank you so much. Miss Kim, your last name, pronounce your name for me to where I get it right.
Guillory.
Guillory. Okay, Kim Guillory, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you. That's a lot of all those certifications right there that you were going through the list to read. I used to hide, like I did not want it to show. It took so long for me to arrive where I'm at to feel confident about. I just kept doing courses and trainings and courses and trainings. And so I'm almost embarrassed when it comes time for the introduction of all the things. I was like, it's not that I'm a slow learner. I was just very interested.
Well, I mean, I totally understand the feeling of when somebody's singing your praises and shining your highlights. You're almost like, wait, did I do all that? Yeah, I was there. I lived through all of that. And so congratulations on all your success and all the people you've served, all the businesses that you've helped. Give us a little backdrop story about where you came from, how you knew that this is exactly the direction you should go, and the twists and the turns to where you are today. Give us the 30,000 feet view.
Ooh, so I had no idea that this is where I was going. First of all, I had no idea I would ever be in business. It was accidental. I had 4 kids at home. My kid was going to kindergarten, and I was like, I need to find something to do. I went to beauty school just to I don't know what else to do. There was nothing else paying around here. My last job was $1.50 an hour. So it was like, okay, maybe I can do this and at least get $5 for a haircut. And then I got pregnant for my 5th one while I was in beauty school. So when I came out, I ended up doing hair, nails, and tanning. And I opened a little shop behind my house because the one tanning bed in town closed down. I was like, I could do that. That's going to be easy, right? I had no idea how good I was at business, how good I was at serving. And it brought in a lot of money and a lot of clients very quickly.
Wow.
I had that thing paid off in 3 months.
What? Oh my goodness. Wow.
I'm telling you, accidental. I had no idea. Like, this was not in my vision. It was before that I was selling Avon just to like have a babysitter. I was just like trading off, and I ended up hitting President's Club my first year. So I was like, okay, wait, turns out I may be really good at sales. Tis Grant Cardone, how I would end up in this world, right? So we ended up adding on to that building. And then about a year later, I was like, you know what? I'm getting unhealthy. Like, I'm not feeling good. I want to go to a gym, but we didn't have a gym anywhere nearby. And so I moved the building over to the side of the property. And then I added ladies fitness. Eventually it turned into, we had massage therapy, a little boutique kind of thing, ended up with another location. Tracy, this is crazy. Like in 1999, I could have franchised this. I didn't know anything about business until like 12 years later. I'm in like the closest city, which is about 45, 50 minutes away. And I am going to the store like to buy a purse. And then there's a tanning salon, and then there's a hair salon. And I was like, oh my God, I had all of this 12 years ago under one roof. I am brilliant. No coach training, no coaches, no business training, I should say, not coach training. Like, for me to even understand that, I was truly loved being a servant. It's all I've ever wanted to do is serve and please people.
Yeah. Love that. Love that model. So was that, let's talk about the servant. I love that. I do a lot of teaching in my clients with servant leadership, and it comes from, and we'll get to talk about this with spirituality and business and faith, and how that, a lot of people will not talk about that. They don't want to connect the dots, so to speak, with that. And I think it is so important. Where did the servant attitude, where did that show up? When did it begin? Was it modeled for you as a kid by somebody else? Is it just true, pure, like just who you are as a person? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting when you just asked that. Like, I got teary-eyed. Kind of forget some of these moments. It was not taught to me. I followed it. I found it. I seeked it, and I remember going to a priest once, and I was like kind of in the mix of like trying to figure out what was going on. And he said something that was really profound. So this may lead to, I did not expect to get emotional here.
Let's go.
And he said, I'm gonna humbly admit this. The experience that you have had is so profound, and I believe it comes from your seeking being so deep. So I never knew my mother.
Wow.
And I was like, my dad was raising 3 kids, and she was off. I don't know. I don't know the whole story. And I've just yearned. I'd never been like held or touched or like acknowledged like as a child. Wow. And he like says it's the seeking of a human's natural desire of the mother that led to this seeking of spirit. And in my upbringing, the spirituality part, it wasn't religion. It was, matter of fact, it took me, like, I was an adult and I was like, Jesus, what? Like, it was Holy Spirit for me. I was so clear about that. And then I was like, oh, wait, there's this other story, right? Because it's like this innocent child. I wasn't like, didn't really have that understanding. But there's something that it was a calling. I say I was summoned. It was like a summoning to understand, to learn, to embody this understanding of like soul in human form. And even when I remember being like in 6th grade and walking to the library and like reading all the books in the summer. And I don't know, it had to be spiritually led because there was no one in the household telling me to do this. I had no influence to follow other than. So when you said that, it brought me back to remembering, like I had a lot of profound moments that really stopped me in my track along the way. And I really just wanted to be a good girl. I just wanted to be a helper. I just wanted to belong. I wanted to find my place in the world, and I couldn't find it. And I know now it's because I speak a different language and I think differently. And My experience is different, and I'm not like, I was not, what would you call the word when someone molds or shapes someone to be? Because we kind of were talking about individuality.
Yeah.
I didn't have to crack that. I didn't have to break. I didn't have it. And so I was like begging for it, like to put myself in the box, like to get in the box. And then when I got there, I was like, oh no, this is not going to work. And so it's a very interesting question, because everything that I've done in business was led by that same pull, that same summoning, like opening the building, the very first time. Matter of fact, this building I'm in right now, if you pull the vinyl off of this floor, there are scriptures on this floor. I was so afraid. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in where we didn't have electricity sometimes. We didn't have food. I don't have senior pictures. I didn't have a prom dress. I don't have a senior ring. Like all of those normal things that kids have, I didn't have. And so like to hear this voice that I need to go open this business, spend this money. Like matter of fact, when I went to the bank, they were like, you're never going to be able to make it, like doing nails and hair. Like it didn't even make sense. Right. And that's my loan officer.
Yeah.
And so I was really afraid to go broke. I was really afraid to disappoint my husband, my family. Like, what if I can't do this? And so I would just like pray and write these scriptures, but I'd stick like notes behind where they put the electrical stuff at in the whole entire building. And I would I'd use anointing oils at the door. I'd put it at the road. I have, when you walk on the cement outside, there's like the little pennants. And I mean, it was faith. It was faith driven, but I don't have an answer of where it came from, other than that part of me evolved, grew a muscle, and it is me. I don't know how to not be. I don't know how to not be it. And so when I was a lost teenager, I attempted suicide and was very disappointed when I woke up. I mean, like embarrassed and very disappointed. I felt trapped because I thought I was getting out. Like I wrote my note, I was going to meet God. I was like, I was so certain, and I didn't die. And I didn't realize it until I just like shoved it under the rug, forgot all about it. Never want to talk about that again, because that's crazy, people who do that, right? There's mentally something wrong with it. So I never spoke about this. But I had a little young girl who worked for me for a few years, and her stepdaughter, almost the same exact story at the same exact age, took her grandparents' medicine and actually completed suicide. And around that same time, I remember I had a client, and I'd been doing her nails and exercising with her every day. She was one of these, she would come every morning, we'd work out together. I'd do her nails once a week. We'd spend an hour together. And she told me she was diagnosed with 4th stage liver cancer. It was right on the other side of this wall. And I remember just like putting my head down, and I heard this very loud voice in my head that said, why does she get to die and I have to stay?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I am depressed. Like it was just this huge moment of now being an adult and still like 25 years later, still being angry. So I had become careless, all those years, because I didn't care if I lived. I didn't. Why did I want to stay here? I don't want to stay here. There was nothing here. Right. So I was like in that world for so long. And in that moment, I said, well, great. Fine. I'm not doing anything else that's not fun. Just put up my hands, made that decision, and my entire world fell apart. Like everything I thought was like safe or protected or sure, all like I'm talking like kids and rehab and jail. Like, I mean, like the worst case scenarios after that moment. And I was like, whew, I'm in trouble. Like this is not going well. And that is I really had to learn about boundaries, about personal responsibility, about not doing for others, not trying to change others. And it is hard. And through those lessons, I realized like if the kid falls in the mud puddle and they get back up, they can get out of the mud puddle. But if you keep taking them out, and it keeps getting deeper, they put themselves in a hole that's so big that you can no longer help them out because they didn't have any muscle.
Wow.
And that was like this. I was doing, my story's all over the place, by the way. You probably started with the wrong question.
I'm tracking with you. Okay. You left a really good popcorn trail for me. So I'm going to pick up the pieces here in just a minute.
We're going to get to business eventually.
Oh, yeah.
And though that moment was like, oh, love is allowing. I thought love was like protecting and going to the courthouse and filing for the expungement so they don't go to jail. And I thought love was, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was love. Mm-hmm. And then I realized like the hole keeps getting deeper, because now that they got out of that, now they got a second one. And then and I'm like, oh my God, now we can't get them out. Like now there's a record. Now there's like, and so it was like hard lessons, you know, to really allow people to evolve and take personal responsibility for themselves. And that's why I've got such that tough masculine approach now, that I was like, it actually comes from like, stop screwing with God's people. Stop messing up their lessons. Like stop getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good. You have a statement that you shared with me just before we recorded, and you said something about M&Ms and Skittles, and like when you said that to me, and I want you to say that so our viewers can hear it. But I was just thinking about the diversity. You just actually explored like putting people in a box. You know, like there was not a mold for you. There was no place that. I mean, you were created from a design, and that's a deeply spiritual mindset for somebody in business. Tell us that quote you said about M&Ms and Skittles, something like that. You got to quote it.
I will fight for people's individuality, including all of the stuff that comes with it, the trouble, the experiences. I don't want to live in a world of brown M&Ms. I want to live in a world of Skittles. Like I want that. I want those juicy stories. You know, I'm bored with, oh, let's just do the straight line and let's just go to college and have 2 kids and buy the car and buy the house. Never happened that way. Never. I wouldn't even know how to do that. And yet it all turned out so beautifully. And I was like, I would want other people to experience that. Mm-hmm. You know, just allowing that to lead, because so much could have gone badly. You know, I eventually got myself to the position where I was very thankful that my mother left and I wasn't exposed to whatever could have happened. You know, I don't know that, but you know, I had to really switch the mindset around and understand, you know, the book, The Gap and the Gain, like where are the gains? Mm-hmm. Man, I lived in the gap those 20 something years. I was in a bind. I did not want to live. I was fighting. All I was doing was working. It's the only thing that brought me pleasure was serving. I wanted to be a nun when I was a kid, messed that up. I didn't even know how to do that. And then I got pregnant. So I was like, oh, I'm screwed. That'll never happen now. Right. I remember I would go to retreats. I started going to silent retreats when I was 29 years old. I had a hysterectomy, kind of lost my mind, like really got in a bad position. And someone invited me to a silent retreat. So when I was 30, and for the next, from 30 to over 10 years, because I remember all that falling apart happened on my 40th birthday, and I didn't know it was my 40th birthday. So I was at a retreat. So I know it was at least 10 years of attending silent retreats. And that's where all that, the healing and the contemplation and the awareness and the understanding. And I mean, it just kept coming through. And it was like, I'm getting it. Like I'm starting to understand it. So it's like just been a lifelong seeking. All this time I was in business. All this time, the only thing that brought me great pleasure was serving. So I was still getting to serve. But at that one particular retreat, you could go for 15 minutes and talk to the nun. It was at the Seneca in New Orleans. And so I go to her desk, you know, and I'm like regretting so badly that I didn't make it to be the nun. Like I'm still like having this story. And she reaches across the desk and she says, oh, hun, you can do so much more than we can in here.
Right. Wow.
And
so
that's Skittles. That's you don't have to wear that outfit in order to do God's work, right? You can actually wear this color and do God's work. You don't actually have to be in that building. You don't actually have to do it that way. All of us can do it. We are servants. We're conduits of that moves through us. And every business decision I ever made, I fought. I felt like Job. It was not raining. I don't understand why we're building the ark. This does not make sense. I remember the building in the back. I sold one of my locations and I got the money and I was like, I don't know what to do with the money. And I called my financial advisor and we're like going to put it in an IRA or whatever you're supposed to do. And I could not sleep. I woke my husband up in the morning and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I got to get the money back. And he's like, what? Everything in me, I recognized that call. And I was like, everything in me, I have to add on to the shop. And it was like, this is so stupid. This is ridiculous. And why? I don't understand why, right? I called it like the arc, the boundary room, all kinds of things while I was doing it. I took all the money, put it into there. And that's where I opened up to yoga, meditation, group classes, expanded into the whole holistic world. But at the time, I'm in rural Louisiana. It does not feel appropriate. It is ridiculous. They think I'm a witch because I use essential oils and I do hypnosis and all the things that are so anti-religion, anti-spiritual, right? So wrong. And I mean, I had so much shame about that. And so it was like, basically, I was just like hiding it in this little boundary room. It's like where it almost feels like inside of this building is another world. And my people who work here with me say the same thing. It's different. We say out there.
Yeah.
It's like inside of here is that creativity and the expansion and the just the abiding ideas, and just there's so much hope in here. And there's the like, oh, we could do this and we can expand, and people need this. And then we walk out here and they're like, what are you talking about? Who wants to do that? No one will do that. There's no money for that. And I'm like, I got to go back into my little hole.
Right. There's harmony.
Yeah. And so there's just so much connection between spirituality and business for me. Business was the summon. And it was the place that I got to serve, where maybe I don't wear the little black robe and the habit, but it's the place where I can help other people improve their life, where I can help them change their mindset, where I can help them see another way. And over the years, in the fitness business, that was really hard because we live in an oppressed place. And so these women would come in, they were like starting to get it together. They were feeling good. And then the husband would pull them back,
Yeah.
And there's just so much insecurity and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's why I was attracted to the coaching, because I was like, it's not their body, because they would start working out. First thing, the hip pain would come out, the knee pain would come out. The plantar fasciitis was one of the first things. I started, putting together what I knew about the metaphysics, and what was showing up in their body was actually what was going on in their belief system, in their mind, and what was unprocessed was actually materializing in the body. Now, again, I'm like foreign speaking about this, but I'm so sure about it because when I looked back at my history and I finally got the understanding, I was able to relate. I journaled about it, so I had the evidence of all the things that I was going through when I had the tonsils removed, when I had the hysterectomy, when I had the foot surgery, when I mean, I've had 15 surgeries. I have a lot of body parts that are not here anymore.
Yeah.
And when I connected the dots to what was going on, like when I was finding my voice, it was my tonsils, And so it's like I put it all together, started seeing it, wanted to bring that to my clients. And of course, there was a lot of rejection about it, but it ended up leading me into who I am today, which is I train health and wellness practitioners on how to help their clients heal their body with their mind. When I first started, I was on a mission to help save people's organs, like their body parts. And the medicine is a big part of what was keeping me stuck. I was on so much medicine. I was on antidepressants, Klonopin, Xanax, Adderall, painkillers. Like that was my, what do you call it? They call it my mix, for over 20 years. And I mean, look, I'm so clear-headed now, and I'll say focused. Typically I'm focused, and this story, it kind of goes all over the place, and I'm emotional. Like I understand emotional processing. I'm emotionally mature. I know how to, move through discomfort. But when I was on the medication, I couldn't feel anything. So my guidance system was broken, but I didn't know it. And that awareness came through understanding mindsets, through doing this work, the mind body work. I'm also a massage therapist. And so I was seeing this physically show up in their body. And I was using, treating the body, not just physically, and doing craniosacral energy work, really like seeing the difference in that. And then I was like, sold. Like, I'm not crazy. This is for sure. And then my doctor's wife committed suicide. How they say completed suicide. And in the front of the funeral home, he said, how did you figure it out? And she couldn't.
Mm.
And I said, to be honest, it felt like whatever I was taking was stopping me from understanding or following my own guidance. Like my emotions were completely turned off. And he said, that's what the medicine does. It's like I felt punished. Like, you are emotionally a problem, so we're going to turn your emotions off. And yet I am driven by movement. I'm driven by emotion. I'm driven by the calling. I'm driven by the sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like a life of numbness for 20 something years. And as I kept doing the work, one day I was on my way to a retreat. I took the medicine, and when I got about 20 minutes down the road, I felt it. And that afternoon, and I was like, what's happening? I had just become very body aware, and I started noticing it with the meds, when what was doing what was doing what. And I eventually got off of everything. And I do not advocate that to anyone. I do not think there is a problem with medicine.
Yeah.
I had the awareness and I did the work. And as I became a health coach and I started really trying to bring this to the public, I went to my doctor's offices and I said, if you're going to prescribe it, like, would you want the help with the habit and behavior? Because that's what made the difference with me. Changed the mindset, the habit, and the behavior, and then the medicine was no longer needed. And so if we can use the medicine to actually calm until we can get the ration and the reason to start changing the habit and the behavior, right? They can work together. But that's not even accepted in the medical world.
Right.
You know, it's like just at this point in time, I do think it's going to become something at some point. Yeah. And I'm going to continue to do my part, you know, as a mind body trainer. Like, I train people this coaching approach. And it's specifically for massage therapists, psychotherapists, chiropractors, physical therapists, pharmacists that are moving out of that world and becoming client advocates. So that is how my coaching career started off. My own process. Again, it was my own discoveries to how do I figure this out? Like, I have 5 children. My husband works shift work. I'm running 2 businesses, completely codependent. I don't know how to say no. I don't know, like, I had no boundaries. And I had a moment where I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and the rheumatologist said, this was the game-changing moment. This is a condition of behavior. And I was like, are you calling me a hypochondriac? Because I was called that as a kid. And he said, habit and behavior, he did it like a triangle. And so when you're not taking care of yourself and you're taking care of other people and you're not tending to your own business and you're tending to other people's business, it's like the triangle going backwards, and it pulls it away from you. So it takes you away from health. And when you're taking care of yourself and you've got this triangle and you're bringing all of these parts in, then you become a whole body being. And then you have reserves that you can help other people.
Yeah. Right.
And I made a post on Facebook because that triangle reminded me of joy, Joy, Jesus, others, yourself. You've heard that?
Right. Yes.
Well, I was bodacious and made the claim, what if it's a triangle and it's not in that order?
Okay.
I got a few warnings about that and New Age believing and stuff like that. And I was like, here's the problem.
Yeah.
That is great for someone who is a whole being.
Yeah.
What about the person who didn't have the mother, who didn't have the nurturing, who didn't have the caring, who doesn't have the boundaries, who doesn't understand self-care? Like, what if you got that and they didn't? They can't put Jesus first because they don't have the overflow. They don't have the wholeness. It's like marrying someone to be your better half. I don't want to be married to a half person. I want to be married to a whole person. I want to be a whole person. And I mean, I really went shame after that, after being called out about that. But I was like, no, like, it's legit. You can't put your rules and regulations on someone else's experience, going back to the Skittles.
Yeah, right.
You know, lucky you with your little 6 kids and your perfect husband that stays at home and takes care of it. I didn't have that shit. You know what? I was 8 months pregnant, sleeping in a car because I didn't have a house or a baby daddy. Like, we don't have the same story. It's taking bold claims like that, you know, to be able to like own it for myself. Like I didn't put myself in this position.
Mm-hmm. Kim, you've got a great story, and there's so much in here I want to unpack. I want to come back. By the way, those that are watching this episode, she's dropped so many great little nuggets along the way, and I want to go back and just kind of put some in my basket and articulate it in this way. So like the unconscious competent keeps on coming back up, where like here you are, like you said, there's nothing that gave me more pleasure than serving. And I wanted to serve others. And like, I was thinking about that when you were talking about, like from your business, how you started out on the beauty, the outside, the way that we express sometimes or cover up. I mean, we can, sometimes the beauty's on the inside, we express it by, we'll tan or we'll, do our hair up. We're trying to express the beauty that's on the inside by the outside. And sometimes we're trying to cover up the ugliness that we feel, the embarrass, the shame, whatever, by the beauty on the outside. Either way, you're treating symptoms. So you're like, like we're going to tan, we're going to do the hair, we're going to do the nails. All of these are like, make it so this is what you knew. And then a shift takes place in your life where you're like, wait a minute, it's yes and. It's not just the body, but what if we go into the mind? There's limiting beliefs. There's things that are keeping us back. The behavior that we have, the results that we're getting in life is part of our belief, our behavior, and so forth going forward. And so now we have the whole person. We got this body, we got this mind. You've gone from treating the effects to now coming to the cause. And like this whole journey, that what you've learned is truly serving others on both sides. And you mentioned something here. You said my guidance system was broken and I didn't even know it. Like I didn't even, so for me, I translate that as like, somebody that doesn't have the faith that I have, their spiritual antenna is broken. Mm-hmm. They're totally unaware. Some of the things that we're even processing, they can't even like, I don't even know where to begin with this stuff because they don't have that spirituality. They're not sensitive to it. And so for you coming in, like you said your priest had mentioned about, you being a seeker as a little girl and always seeking this, very heightened awareness and sensitive to the spiritual realm, because that's what you've been seeking as a little girl coming into the space. There's just so many good little nuggets that I heard along the way that bring us to where you're at now and what you do for other people. What the have I connected that correctly?
I think so. I was like, how did this happen that we went all over there? I was like so ready to talk about business.
This was just so well, and here's what I was driving for, is like I wrote down here, you are the business.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like the scripture verses that you put in every nook and cranny, and the way that you anointed the building, and it's almost like, hey, I want to be an instrument of service to these people that come in, whether they're coming in to tan, get their nails done, get their hair done, whatever it is, the way they're expressing their beauty on the outside, whatever that is. I want to be a vessel. I want to be a servant to these people. And now moving it forward and advancing it forward, really nothing has changed. You are still the business. So your business is going to emanate from who you really are. Yeah. I can't help but establish rapport very, very quickly with people because that's who I am. So I'm hearing a little bit of reflection of my story involved in yours. Like, yeah, that's so true. I am the business. Yeah. And I don't want to be this corporate, like I don't fit in that mold. I don't want to be in that mold. I want to be a Skittle. I've been designed to be a Skittle, not crushed into a, here's the brown paint on the little, place where I get to be a brown M&M. But I'm screaming inside because I'm actually supposed to be green.
Yeah.
That's such good. So, okay. So you go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, like, for a long time, I turned that off because I was picked on for being so sappy, right? So it's like, oh, every time, I only am comfortable in intimate conversations. I don't know if you've seen me at the events. I'm very uncomfortable socially in little talk. Like, makes me, I'll sweat. I'm sweating. Like, I'm white. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And Jody's like, watch. And I was like, I keep like talking over people. I was like, I am so nervous in this pressured environments. but I can do intimacy like as deep as someone can go, and that's so comfortable. So I was picked on about that. I was ridiculed about it as a kid. So I was like turning that off and pretending like I wasn't, and man, that's when all that time I was so disconnected. And I was like, this is me. I actually like, this is the bodysuit I get to wear on this soul in this lifetime. Like, what? I'm not covering that up. Right.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get to the point. The other thing is I realized how many people are in the position that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so happy to have a guide that can take them to that, within themselves. And I monetize that. Like I actually created that as a service to help people to get to that, what is that summoning within you? My people have a fire so big, even if they try to put it out, they can't, because that's who I am, right? And so it's like, we actually don't want to conform to that world. It's not an interest. But boy, talk about a challenge when you're bringing intrapreneurs into your world and they are used to the rules. They don't know what to do with the freedom. They're like, please tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to tell you what to do.
And I'm not sweating. Am I really giving a good day's work?
Yeah. So it's really interesting, but I do think there's more of us coming out. And I believe we have a lot of brilliance to offer the world in a very unique and interesting way. It's just not quite popular yet. It's kind of like the holistic lifestyle. It's just not popular yet. It will be. We might be dead, but at least we get to, get a step on it. And I love to say that, Jesus kind of changed the world with 12 disciples. Imagine what I could do with 12 grandbabies.
That's right. Absolutely. I was thinking so from the superficial, so when I put myself, you painted such a great picture at being in an event. And by the way, those watching this right now, think about yourself in a networking event where you got all this small talk going on. And really some of the small talk is like, hey, is this really going anywhere? Because it's so on the surface. And I think why there's so few is because the fear of getting that intimate or the fear of getting that deep and bringing some of this stuff up, the beliefs that are limiting us in life, the things that are holding us back, not allowing us to get forward. And we just kind of mask it because that's what everybody else is doing. And so there could be just a big fear. Like they're probably more scared, like that you would bring up, hey, I heard you talk about that. Could we get a little bit deep for a little bit? Oh, no way. We can't get deep because then you'll reveal that like I'm 100 miles wide and 1 inch deep. I don't have much depth to me past the small talk. Yeah. And so you think on a definitely a more sensitive, deeper level than most. I get told that a lot and I didn't realize it. So imagine what my life was like before I knew it. Like I would hang out with people after their workout. I have one client in particular who's been coming since the day I opened the gym, and she's now one of my trained coaches. And she said, it was probably 8 or 12 years ago when she told me this. And she was referring back to the time 8 or 12 years ago. And she said, you remember after we'd work out in the morning and you would just like talk about all this stuff? And she's like, it was so interesting. I had no idea what you were talking about at all. Yeah.
She's like, it's starting to make sense now. But this is the thing that they all say. I don't understand, but I feel something and it feels really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder what's up with that, And so I started investigating, and then I realized I need to quit assuming people understand what I'm talking about. And so I've had to change my language and the way that I speak, but it has not been easy. Like even in my book or my coaching, they have to adapt to my language because I'm self-taught. So I'm not getting it from a coach or a mentor or a process it's literally raw.
Yeah. I think you're following, like, I have a mentor that shared this with me. He said the rarest form of knowledge is self-knowledge. Like people just don't know who they are. You've done the hard work that like a degree could never equip you for. You've done the hard work of understanding, I know now who I am. I have self-knowledge. And the self-examined life, they say, is just not worth living. But people are living that every day. I mean, they're just kind of going through the motion, and basically they could be like a cardboard cutout. And when they're gone, life just keeps on going on. There wasn't an impression. There wasn't an impact. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we share. It's like we want to make that impact in the lives of other people and truly serve them, to help them think deeper, take time for reflection, understand where are you coming from? What is the gift that you bring into the world? When you're So somebody, let's suppose that like somebody's coming into business and they're connecting on it. They feel something. They've watched this episode. They're like, you know what? I think there is something to this that I cannot divorce who I am for what I do, because I am part of the messaging. I'm part of the vision. I'm part of the business. What is something that they could do or read, or what do they need to know in order to explore deeper that spiritual side?
My top 3 books that I talk about all the time. The very first one is The 4 Agreements. I listen to it twice a year. I tell everyone, if every person listened to that, we would all get along so much better. Because we make assumptions.
Yeah.
And we don't do our best. Even you and I probably don't do our best every day.
Sure. Yep. I agree.
We take things personally. We get butthurt, because we take it personally. Wait, what's the 4th one? Don't take anything personal. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best is the last one. Or you're going to have to pull it up because it's going to bug me.
I've got it on my shelf somewhere.
And Untethered Soul.
Okay.
Is another. Love that. One of my big shifts came from Marianne Williamson had a book called Return to Love. And there's a poem in there that it's matter of fact, it's in my book. And it was one part of the poem that hit me. And it was like shrinking or like dimming your light for other people to be comfortable.
Ooh.
And I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like that's a big money problem and success problem for business owners. And it's because we hear that, well, it must be nice, those kind of sarcastic things. Yep. And I had been dimming myself to belong my entire life.
Wow.
And making friends with the fact that I'm not a brown M&M, I don't belong and I don't want to, freed me. And that's really what it's about, is personal freedom. At the end of the day, every single one of us are fighting for the individuality, the personal freedom, the self-expression. And the mind, like the way that our brain works, it wants it to be easy, it wants it to be now, and it wants it to be familiar. So it's so counterintuitive to what I'm talking about, which is the self-expression and the like going and flowing. And like, I love to say I'm willing to be surprised by what my mind has yet to imagine or experience. And that one phrase has opened me up to so much, because we're so limited by what we know.
Yeah.
Are you willing to let go of what you know to know something else?
Mm-hmm.
Those are scary questions for the brain. It's like, no, that could be death. That could be painful. That could take a long time. It hits the triad of complete opposite of what the brain wants, and to settle in. And so the mind training is so important. But as I say in the podcast, it's more than mindset. It's trapped in the cells of the body. It's a cellular thing. It's been passed down from generations and from our earlier experiences, and it's now imprinted on the system of the body. And so when we go to do something daring and we feel a sensation, and then the mind is tracking and looking for how that's dangerous, and it's bringing that back, and we think it's what's happening in front of us, but it's not. It's just triggering the imprint that's inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can recognize that, and then we can stay with it, I do something called emotional processing technique, and we stay with it until the unfelt perception is integrated. In other words, the experience that was hidden and tucked away subconsciously and unconsciously has a moment, 90 seconds, and then it's integrated. And then the imprint is diffused. So then we may have I'm using some really big words now. That's my own language, but it's really like if I could just speak about something on a TED Talk, it would be helping people to understand just this, because they will have complete power and control of their life and also be in flow to what is bigger and broader than them. Because we don't understand the most powerful organ in the body. And because we don't understand it, and we don't understand that the mind is just a projector and it's just bringing up memories to keep this mechanism locked in. That's its job. I'm just like, hey, you got a new job. Your new job is to find new memories. And, as in hypnosis, I'm like, we can get rid of your memories, but people think it's their identity. And I'm like, no, it's your problem. It's actually not your identity. Your memories are the file cabinets that are stored so it never happens again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that service.
If I fear something the most is not knowing what I should know. They say that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
like not knowing what I should know that I don't know right now. And because of that, because I'm not aware that I'm missing anything, I keep on operating this way. But I should know that. I would be a whole lot better. So that's what attracted me to self-improvement or self-development, personal development, stuff like that. And being around people like you, because I need to know something. Like I'm seeing one side of the coin, but I'm not seeing the whole dimension. Maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. And so like I fear, to use scripture, seeing the glass darkly. It's a cloud. And so I'm only seeing, it's kind of like on the back of a Zoom, some of your clients will have like the foggy, it's all, you know that there's something back there, but you can't really truly make it out. And that's the fear that I would have in some area of my life. That's my Zoom background. That's the background of that life that I want it to be a little bit more clear. So I want to learn and I want to grow and I want to expand that mind.
I love that you said that. That's super interesting. My biggest fear is that what I know isn't so. Because my perception is clouded by limitations of my environment. And so my bigger regrets come from what I thought was true that isn't, like the stories about money, like the stories about success, like the thing about being seen and heard. And all of those things create this dissonance. Because here we are as a soul being, God, like wanting to shine and express and connect with our maker. Like there's this part of us that's in every single one of us. And anyone's denying it is because of the dissonance that it's not safe to do it, because they're going to throw tomatoes at you. They're going to put up a post about you. They're going to if they find out you have money, they're going to sue you. Right. So this dissonance is constantly running. I remember getting my first award at our school. We used to have a celebration about money. And so I was got the 6-figure award. And I remember I'd been for 6 years, I'd been wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. No one hears me. No one understands me. And then here we are, and I'm on the stage and I don't want to be there. I don't want anyone to see one. I don't want anyone to say, I was hiding behind the curtain. I didn't want to come out. I was kept pulling back. And I was sweating profusely. And I was like, this is it. Here's the belief error. Yeah. It's not safe to be seen or celebrated. Yeah. That's the belief error. And the dissonance was, I wanted all my life. I've been wanting to be seen. I've been wanting to be heard. I've been wanting to be acknowledged, from the beginning stages, even of my mother. And I think if any human denies that, I don't know if that's true. Every little baby is kicking and screaming and laughing. They all want to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
Till they're told not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that brings me back to what you said, easy, now, and familiar. In business, it isn't easy and it's going to take a lot of work. So it's not going to be right now. And you're going to be uncomfortable the entire way because you're learning something so new. It's totally unfamiliar, but that's where growth is. That's where, you got to engage that. Be comfortable in the uncomfortable space, in the unfamiliar.
That's the secret to everything. If you're willing to feel everything, you can have anything.
Good.
It's behind weight loss. It's behind money. It's behind intimacy. I like to say this stuff that's going on subconsciously shows up in your bedroom, your bank account, and your body. Shows up as physical symptoms. It shows up in intimate relationships. You see how many broken families there are. Sure. And how much all of the stuff that's happening in marriage is way easier just to go out the door and go get something than to confront what's going on in the house, right? It's way easier. Intimate is very hard. So it's what's happening in the bedroom, and which it's with mothers and children and the whole 9 yards. It's not just partnerships. And what I see and how it shows up in the body, it's so obvious to me, but it's rejected. It's resisted because the indoctrination of it being something else is just so much stronger. I think it's coming. Around. It makes sense. And I can work with someone on a session like you. So I created something that's called conversational hypnosis because so many people are afraid of it. And so I teach my coaches how to access the subconscious and make the shifts right here and now. We had someone yesterday. She's like, wait a minute, where did it go? It's gone. It's gone because the imprint has no more power. When you're aware of it, and you allow it, And it's just gone. But we live a lifetime with it in our body. And because it's always been there, we think it's normal. It's not normal. Wellness is normal.
Yeah.
And the only thing separating us from wellness are our beliefs. So I actually don't think thought work dominates. I think having a healthy mindset is important. But what's more important is, because we have thoughts all day long.
Yeah.
The only ones that matter are the ones that get hooked to the imprinted emotion. I call it an emotional signature. And those are the beliefs that just loop and loop and loop. And every time they loop, they get stronger and stronger. And then we walk around here with limited mindsets, but not because of our thoughts, because of the thoughts we believe, because they have a visceral experience. And so that to us is like evidence, learned evidence. And so I just love the mind-body coaching world, because it really enters into here. You can change someone's thoughts and they can believe, I'm a millionaire, I make all kind of money, I serve millions of people. It ain't going to compel them into action. How you feel compels you into action. How many people say, I didn't feel like going to the gym?
Sure.
Even the ones who go didn't feel like going.
Yeah.
But they have an imprint and they have a driver of why they should go. And those that have discipline, they get the reward. Then the reward is the new imprint and locked in, and they have something to go back to, and the other one doesn't. That's why the inner body work is so important. If you do the inner work, you'll change your outer life.
And you have been, in your career, your professional life, you have assisted in both. From the tanning and the hair salon and the nails, and then going into the depths where very few people will take the time, like on an episode like this, to take the time to finish this episode, to say, oh, this just goes over my head. No, the reverse is, it actually penetrates. It goes too deep, and we don't like to go that deep.
Well, and sometimes I believe that. So I see, I know we're getting at the end of the time. I just want to share these 4 things. So let's look at 4 different people, and you can even go into 5, but I'm just going to go with the basics. So let's say I hear something and I've got all this emotional garbage going in my body that I don't want to face. I've got anger. I'm pissed off at the world. I'm like, but I don't face it. And you tell me something. That's the person who just does right away.
Sure.
Right? They just throw that dart.
Yep.
It doesn't go in, it doesn't penetrate, because they've built a muscle to just release it, right? And then imagine, like, okay, I'm going to hear something. I hear it. And then so this is where we communicate, right? So it's now communicating. Think about the throat, checking it, testing it in the heart, like checking it in with the heart. Now it's going to be assimilated, digested. And then we come up and we have a conversation. It's like this figure 8 of what's happening with information. How do we assimilate information and communication? We've got a huge communication problem in humanity right now. And I think it's because it can't go past here. Can't hear it. I can't see it. And so it cuts here because they don't have the tools. I don't think we would have the suicide that we have if we had the tools. Suicide is a mental problem in the way of, I don't think I can have and want. I can't have my wants and needs. I can't have my desires. I can't have, it'll never happen, right? It's just a BS story.
Wow.
That's where depression comes from. Like, why would I stay here? Everything is miserable. I've achieved as much as I can and I'm still not happy. They talk about this in The Gap and the Gain also. The ones who are at risk for suicide are often the smartest because they achieve the accolades and they never attain the happiness. And so they're like at the top of their game and still don't feel happy. It's the feelings that are missing. I have a product called the Flaw of Attraction. I was like, the reason you can't attract anything is you can't feel it. You got to be able to feel it to magnetize it. So can you see what I'm saying? So then you have the one that, like, if you can take it all the way down and assimilate it and process it and feel the discomfort of it, take it all the way down and then bring it back up and ask the question, which takes me back to the 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions. If what I heard you say, is that what you meant? Like being in conversation instead of me just throwing it back at you or taking it in and stuffing it down because I'm not even worthy of understanding. And I don't know how. So I'm just going to go and suppress that and put it in my little trinket box back there. And then it's going to get locked in my body and I'm going to instead die of illness and disease.
Mm.
because it will move. Like what does not come out of us, what is not processed in us, is actually going to the tissues. You will feel the pain in the body. That is not normal. Pain is not normal. It's not healthy. It's an expression. It's an inner expression because we don't outwardly express. And then we'll have the ones who completely shut down.
Yeah.
Can't take it. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. And I don't have judgment about that, by the way. I do not. I have stories about that too. My son's best friend hung himself 3 years ago, and my brother also at the age of 25. And I've got lots of close friends. Like I was saying, my doctor's wife was a very, very dear friend. And when I watched her 4 adult kids, like one was in high school, but the rest were graduated, carry her coffin out of that church, I said, I will never not talk about suicide again, ever.
Yeah. Wow. What a huge need that your work has allowed you to do. And no doubt, I had no idea the depth. I got to go into several layers of the onion that's called Kim, and discover things that, like, this is really, really good stuff, deep stuff. And I really appreciate you taking us there on this call. It really was helpful. How can somebody that, because you have triggered something even in me that I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of work that I do on, pastoral ministry and things like that I've done, working with clients and just wondering, how can somebody work with you, follow you? You have a book that you have out. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Probably the More Than Mindset podcast is where you keep up with everything from when I started documenting this process. I had been talking about it like hundreds of times, and I was like, I need to put this somewhere. So that's why I started the podcast. I talk about the wounded healer, which is really a big reason that so many healers are healers. It's that projection and reflection that's inside of themselves. And then they have a desperation to go and help others, right? In order to fix that within themselves. The problem is, then you have to depend on the other person. If the other person doesn't come, then you're triggered by the like, I'm not getting what I want to need. I'm being rejected, and it multiplies this. So I have a lot of like talking about that kind of stuff for the healing world, and also bringing in mindset. So the More Than Mindset podcast is where you'll find out where I'm at, where I'm traveling, what's going on. And my website is just my name, kimguillory.com. By the way, I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. So if anyone feels inclined to hit the link and subscribe, please do so. There are several channels, several playlists on YouTube. We are just building that out now. And that is going to have a playlist that is the mind-body integration. So where we are actually doing some of these healing sessions, because almost everyone who is a coach who's helping someone through personal transformation will come across this. They will hit it and not know where to go because they're up here in the head and the problem is in the body.
Wow.
And so I want to get more of that out there. I do a coach training usually twice a year. This year we just did it once. And the last 2 years I just did it one-on-one because I was like, okay, all this coaching stuff is getting really, I wanted people to understand it on a deep level. We're talking about some, like you're saying, peeling the onion, layer 40, 50 years of stuff. Like I've had a day where we've released over 200 years of stuff. And I was like, that's a good day, because it's just accumulated beliefs. And so when you can start unraveling and unpacking that, their life is changed forever. And so if they're in any type of healing work, understanding the mind-body connection, integration, and embodiment, what's going on, in yoga, we call it a samskara. And that is an imprint in the cellular body. It's in the system of the body. And so changing the thoughts will not change that. It is an awareness. And it takes like the ability to hold a very safe container to go into the depths and just allow it to be experienced. You saw me do it at the beginning of this call. I had a moment. I don't know. I actually don't have a trigger to that stuff. Yeah. It was just something that was still there. It was in actuality when I was talking, it was such gratitude. It was a humble abode of, oh my God, I forgot. Like I'm feeling it again. Yeah. I forgot. We forget to measure the gain. We forget how far we came. Like to look back and think like, damn it, I didn't have a house. I didn't have my car was $125. I was making $1.50 an hour. Like that's in my lifetime. Right. And so it was just a moment where there was still some residue in there, you know, and it's just that it's a humbleness. It's a, you know, a moment of looking back that we forget to measure our gains, you know. The other thing I'm always having events going on. I have Belief Boot Camp that's happening in October 17th. That is all about money beliefs and, you know, understanding like these energetic locks, we can say, that are in the body that are preventing. It's all about the nervous system. When we can regulate the nervous system, we can do anything.
Outstanding. Kim, I love the work that you're doing. Keep on doing it. This is a huge need for people. You know, going in business, all the depression, all the discouragement, and then sometimes people that are met with a significant amount of success, at least what, in a monetary way, what people would think of success, but are just miserable.
That's why we see so many successful actors and actresses, and you would think that they have it all.
Like you've made it.
No, that's why it's not all about money, but money's a great catalyst to bring your stuff up. I guess I just lead with money and all that stuff comes, you know? And so it's almost like a shortcut to getting to all the other problems. The problem is there's so many limiting beliefs, and I think it's due to spirituality, that they shouldn't have to want money. And I'm like, that is ridiculous. You know what? Like, you've heard my talk already, right? Like, the thoughts are the language of the mind, sensations the language of the body, and money is the language of the material world. And anyone who wants to argue with me, I am happy to take you on in the debate. Because you walk out of your house for 1 hour and tell me if that was free. The car you got in, the shoes you walked on, the everything. And it's a beautiful thing. It's not a problem. The more life and health you want to experience, money takes you there. What's the problem with that?
Now, the boot camp, is that an in-person virtual?
It's virtual. It's free. It's 2-hour virtual, October 17th. And I'm just going to be speaking about where beliefs come from. There's 4 significant areas. That's the root cause. And when you can identify those, you can go off and do the work yourself. We'll also have an upgraded VIP day where they can actually out-coach them personally. So that's it. And we do lots of stuff. If they can just find me or send an email and say, you know what, I heard you on Tracy's podcast and I just want to know where to connect with you, they can just email Kim@KimGuillory.com.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kim, so much for being on this show with me and dropping your wisdom. I mean, we definitely took the call deeper today than probably what I've ever taken any call, because of that's your brilliance. This is where you help others and serve others. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And by the way, guys, thank you for if you've watched the podcast all the way to this point, I always show my gratitude for you following the podcast, subscribing to the channel, following us, hitting us up with comments, other things you'd like to grow in. I love to bring people just like Kim on the podcast, because what they do for me is they force me to dig deep within myself, to discover more about myself that I can bring into my world around me. And so when you find somebody just like this, like Kim, that allows you to think more, inspire you to do more, dig deep, that's the type of people you need around you to help you elevate your thinking, to elevate your belief system, or to elevate your active, your action and your outcomes and so forth. So find people like that. Until next time, you guys, thank you for joining us on this podcast. We'll see you then.